Well, it was my hope that past President Joe James would be able to be at our meeting today, but he is sunning in the desert with our friend Don Kraft. So thankfully I was able to get in touch with him and hear the story from him. And the parts that I wasn't able to get out of him because he's so humble, I was able to dig up the old totem from 1971 and fill out the rest of the story. Speaking of, I just need to shout out to the totem reporters. I cannot tell you what a delight it was to go back year after year. There are totem reports that talk about the history of the club and the programs, and it just happened to be Eric Bremner wrote the totem for that day. So I was so charmed, and people are going to be doing the same with your writing years from now. So thank you for that. So I want to introduce you to Joe James if you don't know him. There's a waterfront shop on Pier 54 called Ye Old Curiosity Shop. It is one of a kind, for sure. I don't know if you've ever been in there, but it's almost a little unsettling. It's so interesting. It was founded in 1899, and in 1933 was named one of the 7 wonders of Seattle, alongside the Ballard Locks, the Boeing Airplane Factory, and Pike Place Market. The store has been owned by 4 generations of the same family. Joe began working in the shop in 1946 and operated the business for 50 years. His son, Andy, and daughter, Debbie, now run the business. So you need to go check it out. Joe was elected president of Seattle Rotary in 1971. And at the start of the year, he said he brought the committee heads together to talk about what was going to make their year really special. Their goals are not far off from ours today: club identification, full membership participation, and of course, service above self. The conversation included Fire Chief Gordon Vickery, who talked about a program he and Dr. Leonard Cobb of the Cardiology of Harborview were pioneering. A program that placed specially trained firefighters in a transformed Winnebago to bring the services of an intensive care unit onto the street at the site of an emergency. Their goal was to improve outcomes of people suffering cardiac arrest, to save lives, and to see if non-physicians really could carry out medical care on the streets. Happily, the answer to both was yes. In 1970, the first Medic One unit became operational. The timing was perfect to expand the reach of the program to train Seattle citizens in CPR. What if Rotary takes this on? The minute Chief Vickery got through talking, Joe said they all knew this was it. When I asked Joe what made this idea such a universal vision, he laughed and said, "Well, the average age of our members was 50. You know, when heart attacks start becoming real. We knew we'd want to be helped, and we wanted to know how to help." So we found, like I said, the totem from 1971. So here's an excerpt from Eric Bremner recapping the day. Things started normally enough with VP Willis Camp at the helm, but shortly the lights dimmed, and with sirens wailing and lights flashing, Seattle Fire Department's mini Medic One lily-putted into the room. That's, I don't even know the word lily-putted, but I liked it. Clearly the day was very popular and the idea was very popular because this was just a few of a ton of different newspaper articles that covered it that year. October 21st, 1971. Jack Link was the vice chair of the SRSF Foundation, and so he told about the programs. One was a massive drive to teach Seattle citizens CPR, obviously led by the fire department. Their goal was 100,000 citizens, and they also purchased a Medic One vehicle, which you're going to see. Okay, if you look really close, it says Seattle Rotary right on the side there. Super cool. It is a Winnebago. I think that is so cool. The third thing that they did was create a 28-minute film that basically gave other people kind of the launch pad or the blueprint for how to do this in their cities and sent it out to a bunch of Rotary clubs. So what was probably the most fun to read about in these newspaper articles is as Rotary got behind this, so did the community. And the program really took off. In 1974, Medic One prompted the TV news program 60 Minutes, calling Seattle the best place to have a heart attack. I think Jan still has that. We are so fortunate to be part of a long legacy of Rotarians who save and change lives. A legacy worth continuing. Welcome to today's program. It is, yeah, that's worth clapping for. All right, so now it is my pleasure to briefly introduce today's day chairs, Lisa Mayfield and Kathy Gibson. They are no strangers to you, but you will have so much fun getting to know them next year. Obviously, Kathy is our incoming president and Lisa our incoming VP of programs, and this was a complete rite of passage, them going through this one, because we have a lot of moving parts. So, Lisa has her own company called Aging Wisdom. They consult with seniors and their families to help navigate care options. She is in her second year as secretary on our board, and this just gives you a little bit picture about Lisa Mayfield. I have a folder in my archives called Mayfield Task Force, and we just keep adding things, and we just keep putting them in her task force. Kathy, it works beautifully. So, Kathy is managing partner of Evolve Partner Group, a 5-person consulting firm specializing in mediation and support for organizations and transition. She has a long list of Rotary involvement. Oh, dang. She has a long list of, you didn't see that, of Rotary involvement, but to spotlight this year, Kathy founded the club's new Peace Builders Committee and is also the 5030 District Conference Chair. Yes, mark your calendars, April 29th. It's going to be really fun. So you are in your good hands. And just so you know, Lisa has survived an actual stagecoach accident. Yeah, that's worth asking her about. And Kathy survived a 14,000-foot skydive. That's what I was gonna show you. Because, yeah, look at her face, she's happy. It is so cool. So you guys are in excellent hands next year. Kathy, come on up.
Let's move to the next slide. Thank you, President Sue. Today our theme is Rotarians Save Lives, and you can too. We are very familiar with the life-saving projects that Rotary funds in our community and around the world, and that's important work, and we're all part of it. But today, however, we are going to take life-saving very literally. Our program goal today is for everyone in this ballroom to depart ready, willing, and able to save a life when the need arises. Imagine if you were walking to Rotary today and you saw someone collapse on the street, or if you were a witness to an accident, or you were sitting with a friend at a coffee shop and you saw someone start to choke across the room. There are any number of daily events where everything's fine one moment and the next moment they're not. Each of us, if prepared, could be that first responder. We could provide essential life support while we wait for the Medic One team to rush to the scene. While Seattle may be a great place to have a heart attack, it's going to be an even greater place if we have more citizen first responders. So today we're going to focus on 2 life-saving techniques, CPR and the Heimlich maneuver for choking victims. Before we do that though, I'm curious, out in the audience, is there anyone who has been saved by someone performing CPR or the Heimlich maneuver on them? Would you stand? Bill? Anyone else? We all know someone. Let me ask another question then. If you have saved someone because you had those skills, you actually saved someone with the Heimlich maneuver or CPR, would you either raise your hand or stand up? Love it. This is great. We have life-saving Rotarians in our midst. They are our inspiration today, and we want to emulate their actions when it's our turn to save a life. But before we get to the hands-on segment of our program today, Let's envision the situation, and we're going to run a video right now.
And the address. Hi, I'm on the top of the Aurora Avenue Bridge, involved in a major accident. The ride the duck came across the lane onto oncoming traffic. We had head-on. There's multiple cars involved. Okay. A number of people look like they're very, very hurt on the duck. There's a bus that's been involved and multiple vehicles. Hi, sir. We are on the way.
Duck versus Greyhound?
Yeah. I saw people fly off the side of it onto the bridge.
There were actually people that were ejected?
Yes.
Okay. We've got lots and lots of help coming.
Seattle Fire, Medic 1, what's the address of the problem?
How old is your child? Okay. Please, send help.
Did you hear that last cry? Send help. Well, help is here. And our help today is we're in the presence of our Seattle Fire Department Chief, Harold Scoggins. Will you join me, Chief? The chief has been on the job for almost a year. He joined the Seattle Fire Department in April of 2015. He oversees a workforce of more than 1,000 uniformed and civilian first responders in our community, and they respond to more than 90,000 emergencies every year. Prior to coming to Seattle, the chief served the fire department in Glendale, California, and before that, he was a firefighter with the U.S. Air Force. The chief loves coaching football. In fact, he's currently coaching the senior division of the Central District Panthers, and those are the 12 and 13-year-olds. So we've got football in common. The chief, though, is also a Rotarian. He was an 8-year Rotarian with the Glendale, California Club and has been a Seattle 4 Rotarian since his induction last summer. He's been working hard, getting through his yellow badge. And I won't ask him about his progress, but I do know he's been busy because he's been a founding member of our Peace Builder Committee, and he and the fire department orchestrated the toy drive we had over the holidays. So please join me in welcoming our Seattle City Fire Department Chief, Harold Scoggins.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes to talk to you about the Seattle Fire Department. You know, it's always my honor anytime I get a chance to sing the praises of the men and women of the organization because of the outstanding work that they do each and every day that you may not get to see on a daily basis. But back to that badge thing real quick. It's those Keeks meetings. I think I have enough other meetings, but I haven't got the Keeks meetings yet. But so many great things go on in this organization each and every day. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the organization. And then what I hope to do is shore up the relationship between the Medic One Foundation and how we respond to EMS here in the city of Seattle. So it was back in 1889. There was a big fire that happened. 30 square blocks burned. And the volunteer fire department was done, so the fire department was burnt at that point in time. One of the fire chief's first responsibilities was to hire a paid fire department. So that's what they spent most of their time doing in the early years. You know, and the chief, you know, he was the chief a couple of times, and it was kind of a rotating door back then, but a lot of good work was being done. And a bit of nostalgia for you. The picture you see is the fireboat Snoqualmie on the bottom of the page there. One of the first fireboats on the West Coast here in the Seattle Fire Department. Pretty proud for the organization. So the organization, it's broken up into 4 different areas. Operations, those are the people you see each and every day on the fire engines, the ladder trucks, the medic units, our hazmat, our technical teams. We have a dive team. We have 5 fire boats here in the city. But that's all under our Assistant Chief, Jay Hagan. And you know, they really are the boots on the ground that you see each and every day. Now, our Fire Prevention Bureau is led by Assistant Chief John Nelson. So you see all the growth taking place in the city. You know, they are responsible for enforcement, engineering, inspection of all those things coming out of the ground. And our goals are pretty simple, is to make those buildings safe for people who work there, live there, and are going to visit there. That's our responsibility. That's a big responsibility. And then our resource management section is led by Assistant Chief A.D. Vickery. And you heard President Sue mention earlier Gordon Vickery. Well, that's the son of Gordon Vickery, Assistant Chief A.D. Vickery. And this year he will be having his 50th year anniversary in the Seattle Fire Department. That's pretty incredible. And then our administrative services section is led by our executive director, Helen Fitzpatrick. That's all of our human resources. We have to get people hired, our IT, our payroll, our finance. So those are just the 4 sections that make up the organization. And what do we look like all over the city? So we have 33 fire stations strategically located throughout the city of Seattle. Each of those stations has a fire engine in it. We have 11 ladder trucks, 7 medic units, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. 5 aid cars. Our hazmat unit is downtown at Station 10. Our dive team and our technical team is at Station 14. And we have 5 fireboats. So we have a large fireboat on the sound side and a large fireboat on the lake side. We also have 2 50-foot fireboats, 1 on each side, and then we have a fast rescue boat on the sound side. So it's quite a fleet to maintain, but when you look at how the city is laid out, we have a pretty significant responsibility that I gotta tell you each and every one of our firefighters take very seriously. We have approximately 1,000 sworn members in the organization with another 100 support staff behind that. And you know, last year we ran over 92,000 emergencies. 77,000 of those calls were medical related. Did not used to be that way in the fire service. We have gone through a transition, and some will hear me say from time to time, we have become a part of the healthcare system. People depend on when you call 911, someone's going to show up. It's our goal to show up and treat whatever the problem is. And it's pretty simple for us. We view it as we only have one shot to get it right. So when anyone's having their worst day and we show up, we want to make that day better in any way we can, no matter what any individual will call for. And these are some of the resources that you will see around the city, and we have quite a fleet to maintain. You know, last year was pretty significant for the organization. We responded out of the city 11 times to support other agencies with the major wildfires that you saw burning around the state. So it's not just here in Seattle. We support our neighbors. We have automatic and mutual aid agreements, and some of our technical teams have responded out of the state, and that's a real proud for the organization. So back in '69, there was an idea that Chief Vickery and Dr. Cobb had. And that idea was to bring paramedicine into the fire service. And here's something that's important for you to note. There were 4 cities across America where this conversation was really taking place. It was Seattle, it was Los Angeles, Pittsburgh, and it was Miami. All 4 cities were moving down the road in this area of creating paramedicine in the fire service. But one of the things that happened differently in Seattle that did not happen in any of those other cities across the country was the Medic 2 program that Sue touched on. And that's the CPR component, the citizen CPR. So most agencies developed the paramedic program, but not very many agencies shored it up with the CPR component, because that's where the difference is truly made in getting something started before the firefighters get there, so when the firefighters get there, they can transition into care. And that is pretty significant to note. So the Medic 1 program, you know, it's been around for 45 years now, and another number that's pretty incredible, only just over 600 medics have been trained throughout the course of the program, 226 Seattle paramedics in over 45 years. And so the model that's run here in Seattle and King County is really incredible, because you won't see this model and the efficiency of this model. And that's because of the high level of training that the paramedics receive. And it's that joint relationship from the University of Washington, Harborview, the Medic 1 Foundation that really makes this all come together. Only having 7 medic units for a population of approximately 640,000 is almost unheard of in any city in America. But what happens also is the 900 EMTs that are trained in the department are trained at a really high level, and they're trained to really work together to make this program successful. I'll back up here real quick. That form that you see right there is one of our first what's called Form 20Bs. That's our medical incident form out in the field. It may be the first, and it's actually signed by Dr. Cobb on one of the first runs that we actually went on once this program was established. So what do paramedics do that's a little different than everyone else? I like to put it in 3 bags here. Our paramedics manage airways so they can intubate a person to help manage that airway, to gain an airway, so they can breathe for you if you're not breathing. They can defibrillate you, which is they can give you that electrical shock to the heart to restart the heart, and they can give you drugs through IVs. Those are 3 big buckets of a whole lot of things that they do, but it's really impressive when you see it all come together. It's managed chaos. It's poetry in motion when it's actually happening. And I can remember when I was a firefighter riding on the rigs and had a great time doing it, and I was engaged in it. But now I just get out the way and let the paramedics and the EMTs take care of business as they need to, and I'm there to support them. But those are the 3 big things that actually take place. So EMTs, how do they support the paramedics? We have over 900 EMTs in the Seattle Fire Department, and they can still defibrillate, but through automatic defibrillation, so when your heart is in a certain rhythm, and just like all the AEDs, automatic external defibrillators you'll see around the community, the device will know it can shock. We carry all of those on our fire engines. They'll manage bleeds, they'll start CPR, and they do a variety of other things. But also remember, not just EMTs and paramedics, every one of these individuals are also firefighters. So they have all those other responsibilities, from putting out fires to traffic accidents to hazardous material spills to dive team to all those other things, along with all of these skill sets that they all have. Lives saved. Has it had an impact? The answer is yes. Yes, absolutely yes. It's had an impact over the last 45 years. You know, approaching that 50% save rate, and you can see where we started from to where we are right now, that's absolutely impressive. But when you talk to individuals who have been saved because of the care that they have received out in the field, that's when you know you have had an impact. You know, when these programs started around the nation, you know, a lot of things were being said, that individuals had a better time of being saved on the battlefields of Vietnam than they did on the streets of America, because of the field medics, because of the corpsmen that were deployed with the units that were fighting the war. We didn't have anything like that. So as the discussion moved further and further along, there was a discussion about who should do this, who should provide this service. And when the fire service was giving this responsibility, you know, it wasn't an easy transition, as most things are very challenging when you kick them off. But when we look back 45 years later, and we can think about the vision that Chief Vickery and Dr. Cobb had, and what it's done for the fire service and EMS across this country, is absolutely amazing. Individuals travel from all over the world to visit the Seattle Medic One Foundation. That's a testament and of the good work that's being done here. Well, another note about the Medic One Foundation that's led by Jan Sprake down here in the front. Please stand up, Jan. This may be the only program in the country that has a nonprofit funding the training for all of the medics in King County. That says the community has a commitment to making sure that our people are trained to serve all the members of King County. So that's really important to note there also. It all starts with dispatch. We all know we're working on a clock. So when that call is received, our dispatchers are trained to do emergency medical dispatching, so we can get that call launched into the field as quickly as possible, so we can get those trained personnel on scene to provide the services that are needed. Our Medic 2 program, Sue spoke to that briefly, But one of the things I wanted to make sure I noted here, 45 years later, over 800 citizens have been trained through the grant that Rotary provided to start the Medic 2 program. So you should all give all of yourselves a round of applause. Over 800 trained. Last year alone, over 9,000 individuals in this community have been trained. If you have not been trained, you're going to get a little bit of that today. So that's exciting. But having the courage to act is really what it comes down to. That's why it's so important that we get as many people trained as possible. When it all comes together, sometimes the world is watching, as the world was watching the day that that tragic accident happened. We got to see, and when I say we, I mean you, I, the world, our medics, our EMTs, our firefighters, truly in action. And if you did not know what you were watching, it may appear to you like it was managed chaos, and I'll tell you it was. But while I was on the ground watching what happened, everything was happening so efficiently and so effectively. And that's important for you to know. This is one of the best programs, not just in the state or the country, but in the world. You should be proud of your Seattle Fire Department and the Medic One Foundation. We have some of the individuals here who helped make this program actually work. Our medical director, Dr. Sayer, is in the back of the room. I see him back there. We have our paramedic captain, Captain Jonathan Larson, who's probably been a medic for, 35, 40 years? Pretty impressive. Some of our medics are here. Members of the Medic One Foundation are here. We have some of our cadets here. We also have some of our retired Seattle firefighters here to teach you CPR today. So that's really impressive. And we're proud that President Hsu took the time to make this a priority for the club. So thank you for your time. But one thing I will mention before I leave is on May 18th, I would ask that you save the date. The relationship continues with the Seattle Fire Department. The Seattle 4 Rotary Club will be our sponsor for our annual awards luncheon that will happen May 18th. And so on behalf of the men and women of the Seattle Fire Department, thank you to Rotary for taking that challenge on. We really appreciate it. Thank you.